None of this, of course, would have happened without the extraordinary contributions of the Ricketts family. Tom met his wife, Cease, in the bleachers of Wrigley about 30 years ago. Which is about 30 years longer than most relationships that begin their last. Our dear friend Laura Ricketts met her wife, Brooke, in the ballpark, as well. You know, brothers and sisters, they turned this team around by hiring what has to be one of the greatest. If not, I mean, he's still pretty young, so we'll see how long he keeps on going, the greatest general managers of all time. Theo Epstein, and along with Jed Hoyer and Jason McLeod. They did just an unbelievable job. Theo, as you know, his job is to quench droughts. 86 years in Boston, 108 in Chicago. He takes the reins of an organization that's wandering in the wilderness, he delivers them to the promised land. I've talked to him about being DNC chair. But he decided wisely to stick to baseball. That brings me to the other thing that was so special about this. Championship, and that's just the they guys behind me, the team. They steamrolled the majors this year with a 103 win record. All you had to know about. This team was encapsulated in that one moment in Game 5, down 3-1, do or die. In front of the home fans, when David Ross and John Lester turned to each other and said, "I love you, man." And he said, "I love you, too." It was sort of like a Obama-Biden moment. And then you've got the manager, Joe Madden, who, let's face it. There are not a lot of coaches or managers who are as cool as this guy. Look how he looks right now. That's cool. That's cool. You know, he used costume parties and his shaggin' wagon. So he's got, I'm just saying he's got a lot of tricks to motivate. But he's also a master of tactics, and makes the right move at the right time. When to pinch hit, when to pinch run, when to make it rain in Game 7 of the World Series. It was masterful. So he set the tone. But also some of the amazing players here set the tone. My fellow 44 Anthony Rizzo, who's the heart of this team. Five years ago, he was a part of the squad that lost 101 games. He stuck at it, led the National League in All-Star votes this year. His business partner in the Brizzo Souvenir Company. Which delivers baseballs to fans in all parts of the bleachers. Chris Bryant. This guy had a good year. You know, you go from Rookie of the Year to being the MVP. You win the World Series. And then, like me, he marries up and comes to the White House. And he did all this just in 10 days when it took me a long time. So, congratulations to the newlyweds, Jessica and Chris Bryant. Then you got these young guys like Baez and Russell. Baez turning tagging into an art form. Russell becoming the youngest player to hit a World Series Grand Slam since Mickey Mantle. And you mix these amazing young talents with somebody like David Ross who, for example, helped Anthony out of his glass case of emotions in Game 7. But think about what Rossi did in his final season. Caught a no-hitter, surpassed 100 home runs for his career, including one in his last game ever. If there was ever a way to go out, this was it. And then you got Ben Zobrist, who didn't get to come to the White House last year after winning it all with the Royals, but then hits. .357 in the World Series, go-ahead RBI in the 10th inning of the Game 7, World Series MVP. I think he's earned his way here, and is apparently a good guy. Because I asked his wife, she was in line before he was. I said, has he gotten a big head since he got the whole MVP thing? No. He's so sweet. He's so humble. You owe her dinner tonight. Extraordinary pitching staff, including Kyle Hendricks, the first Cub to lead the majors in era since 1938. Kyle. In turn, was the only pitcher this year with a better era than John Lester, who racked up 19 wins. Good job. You got Jake Arrieta, 2015 Cy Young Award winner. Stretched a 20-game win streak featuring 2 no-hitters across the past 2 seasons, then hit a home run in the NLDS. And won 2 games in the World Series. So, apparently Pilates works. Michelle says it does. So and then finally, the game itself and the series itself. come back from a 3-1 deficit against a great Cleveland Indians team forced what is widely considered the greatest Game 7 of all time. Dexter Fowler becomes the first player to hit a leadoff home run in Game 7. Javi Baez hits another leadoff the 5th. David Ross becomes the oldest player to knock one out in a Game 7, as well. Kyle Schwarber, who's been hurt and hobbled. Then suddenly he comes in and gets 7 hits in the series, 3 in Game 7 alone. And then you've got the 10th inning. You've got the rain. God finally feeling mercy on Cubs fans. An entire game, an entire season, an entire century of hope and heartbreak all coming. Down to a 1-inning sprint. And then Zobrist knocked in 1. Montero knocked in. Another. Carl Edwards, Jr., Mike Montgomery teamed up to shut the Indians down. And then, at 12:47 a. m. Eastern Time, Bryant looks like he's going to slip, everybody is getting a little stressed, tosses a grounder to Rizzo. Rizzo gets the ball, slips it in his back pocket, which shows excellent situational awareness. And suddenly everything is changed. No more black cats, billy goats, ghosts, flubbed grounders. The Chicago Cubs are the champs. And on ESPN. You've got Van Pelt saying, one of the all-time great nights. You've got Tim Kirkjian calling it the greatest night in baseball in the history of the game. 2 days later, millions of people, the largest gathering of Americans that I know of in Chicago. And for a moment, our hometown becomes the very definition of joy. So in Chicago, I think it's fair to say you guys will be popular for a while. But, in addition, they're also doing a lot of good work. Anthony Rizzo and John Lester raised money to help others beat cancer like they did. Under the Ricketts family's leadership, last year alone Cubs charities supported charitable. Grants and donations of nearly $4 million that reached nearly 120,000 children and young adults across. Chicagoland. Under their Let's Give initiative, Cubs staff, coaches, players, and spouses donated more than 1,500 hours of service last year to the community. And after their visit here today, they will head to Walter Reed to visit with some of our brave wounded warriors. So, just to wrap up, you know today is, I think, our last official event, isn't it? At the White House, under my presidency. And it also happens to be a day that we celebrate one of the great Americans of all time, Martin Luther King, Jr. And later, as soon as we're done here, Michelle and I are going to go over and do a service project. Which is what we do every year to honor Dr. King. And it is worth remembering because sometimes people wonder. Well, why are you spending time on sports? There's other stuff going on. That throughout our history, Sports has had this power to bring us together. Even when the country is divided. Sports has changed attitudes and culture in ways that seem subtle but that ultimately made us think differently about ourselves and who we were. It is a game and it is celebration, but there's a direct line between Jackie Robinson and me standing here. There is a direct line between people loving Ernie Banks and then the city being able to come together and work together in one spirit. And I was in my hometown of Chicago on Tuesday, for my farewell address, and I said, sometimes it's not enough just to change laws, you got to change hearts. And sports has a way, sometimes, of changing hearts in a way that politics or business doesn't. And, you know, sometimes it's just a matter of us being able to escape and relax from the difficulties of our days. But sometimes it also speaks to something better in us. And when you see this group of folks of different shades and different backgrounds, and coming from different communities and neighborhoods all across the country, and then playing as one team and playing the right way, and celebrating each other and being joyous in that. That tells us a little something about what America is and what America can be. So it is entirely appropriate that we celebrate the Cubs today, here in this White House, on Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.'s birthday because it helps direct us in terms of what this country has been and what it can be in the future.